please describe some of your experiences playing in the clubs in and around St. Louis in the 30s and 40s? And will you include the names of some of these groups that you played for at the time?
Professionally?
Yes.
Dewey Jackson and his musical ambassadors. That was about the top band in town. And then there was George Hudson, who was the leader of that band, was sort of like my jazz daddy. You know, he taught me the ropes, and I learned how to be the lead trumpet player and the solo trumpet player, and I learned how to conduct the band and stylize the band and play lead in the section. So as a matter of fact, we tried different things. I was suggested, hey George, why don't we try letter D? And the first dotted quarter note was shaken, and then we fall off on the second note, which would be an eighth note. He said, okay, we'll see it. We tried, and it worked out pretty good. And then he would say to us, hey, I'm glad I thought of that.
That's right.
Yeah, so those two bands were, for the most part, the top bands in the area. There were other bands. There were people like, what's his name, Sleepy Tomlin, who was one of the top trumpet players in town. And all of them used to try to discourage young people, you know.
Oh, in what way?
Because it was a threat to their livelihood, you know.
They were worried about the competition?
Yeah.
Yes.
So he used to call me Fuzzy because I always had a little problem trying to get my tone together. So he'd say, okay, he was this type of guy that you couldn't tell whether he was smiling or grimacing. He's like this, huh? Yes, they called me Fuzzy. Yeah, Fuzzy, you're going to be all right and you get that shaking out of your tongue.
Will you just tell us maybe one way that the older musicians would discourage the young ones?
Was there
any particular way that the older musicians would
discourage?
Oh,
yeah, one particular thing. I was from a huge family and I didn't have money to go to college or learn things. One of the reasons why I can't play piano today. I play piano like Bill.
That's not good.
And I asked this old gentleman who was a trumpet player. I said, Mr. So-and-so, I don't know what his name was. How does one improve one's tone in the lower register? Oh, he said, oh, son, I think it's the wheels start turning. I said, here's my chance now, you know. So he said, you got a mirror at home, son? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, you go home, you sit down in the chair, and you put your feet flat on the floor like that, and you sit back in your chair. And all that sounded great, you know, because I'd read a few books, and they said that. And you leave your arms akimbo enough to allow enough space in the air chamber and to allow your air column to form formally. Ooh, and that sounded great. He said, now you put that mirror up and you sit back and you put your horn in the proper position and you use the right armature. And I had been lucky enough to form a nice armature. And he said, while you're practicing, you look in that mirror. Look in that mirror and grit your teeth and wiggle your left ear, not the right ear. But none of this has anything to do. Then they would go home, I'm sure, and gloat. Well, I got rid of another one of them little whippersnappers tonight.
Did you do that?
I went over and perfected it. So much so till a couple of old ladies at one of my performances at the school said, one said to the other, did you see that kid wiggling his left ear?
Oh, shame on them. Shame on
it meant
those
nothing
guys.
to trumpet play.